Hey there! Today we're going to have a look at this pen. This pen was sent to me by the pen company in the UK and it's quite interesting. The Sailor Reglus. What's interesting about the Reglus? That it is a very affordable, relatively speaking, sailor pen because it costs about $93, which I think is not that terrible if you look at Sailor's lineup of pens, some of which are quite expensive. So what I'm trying to say is you can try out a Sailor, see if you like the brand, see if you like their nibs, before you sort of make the plunge and spend a lot on a pen. Interesting pen, rather thin. This is the Bordeaux version, the burgundy. There is also a black version which comes with a fine or medium nib, and I think this pen only has a fine nib as far as I understand. It's a steel nib. Sailor is of course known for the 21 karat gold nibs. This is a steel nib, so it is a bit different in that regard, but it will give you a bit of a feel for the brand. So interesting. I thought it was an interesting pen. I'm going to cover the parts of the pen. I'll do a writing sample. I'll tell you what I like about it, what I not like about it. Let's get started. Okay, so here we go with the Sailor Reglus, the Reglus. I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce that. Let's look at the box first. So, little cardboard outer sleeve, and then you have this blue Sailor box. Pen can sleep on its bed, which is quite soft, and then under that is the Sailor ink converter, directions for use, always useful, because not everyone has used a converter before. There is a little pen baggie, I guess, where you have to tear it open to get the pen out. There was a little thing for, I think that was for the converter, if I remember correctly. And then there is a little Sailor booklet. That side is all Japanese, that side is English, how to fill it, etc. So, rather a nice package. I do like that. I'm just going to put that out of the way. And then we have the Sailor Reglus. I'm just going to pronounce it Reglus. Just to give you an idea, here is a Lamy Safari. So it's not a super short pen, but it is definitely a narrower pen, right? Okay, let's have a look at the parts of this pen. On top, right there, it has the Sailor anchor on the finial, which I always thought is rather a nice logo, the anchor. Now we have this very interesting looking clip. I wonder if this symbolizes something because it's a very specific form, but I couldn't really figure out what that shape is supposed to mean. That's probably my failure, but anyway. We have this body, looks metallic, but as far as I can tell, it's actually not metal. It seems to be some sort of acrylic with a I don't know, metallic lacquer or something, something that makes it look metallic. But it is, when you hold it up to the light, the cap is actually fairly transparent. So I'm not 100% sure if that's an acrylic or something, but it's not metal as I originally thought. Here at the end, pardon me. Nothing there, it's just the end cap, same material. I have a little ring there, which does allow the pen to post rather securely, which is kind of nice, makes for a nicely sized pen. I can use it unposted as well, but I think this is a nice one to post. So the cap, it slips off, clip is nice and springy, cap slips off. You have a rather long section, which is very comfortable, even for slightly larger hands. The center band says Sailor, and since 1911, the company was established. And here on the cap, you have this sort of textured. I like that material. It almost looks like a dial you can turn or something. Section tapers down. Flares out a little bit into this cap lip to make the cap snap in place. Steel nib, which has some stuff going on. There is the anchor. It says Japan. It says Sailor right above Japan, and here on the side it's labeled F for fine. Rather nice. Plastic feed. Barrel unscrews. Again, that really doesn't look like metal to me. Notice the non-metal threads onto the metal threads. That always makes me a bit nervous about that stripping one day, but someone said then you should just turn it back until the threads click in place, and that prevents the stripping, or at least slows it down. That's a great suggestion. Sailor, pardon me, Proprietary Converter. They don't hold a whole lot of ink, but you can put in cartridges if you prefer that, and it did come with a converter, so that is always a plus in my book, because otherwise you have to buy a converter. Interesting pen. I think what we really need to see is how it writes. So I'm grabbing a sheet of paper, and let's see how it does. Here we have, grabbing my notes on the ink. Nib is fine steel and the ink is the Sailor. I'm going to write NP because it is the nano pigmented black. Okay. Nib is fine, very fine, but it is a Japanese fine. Often Japanese fines are, Japanese nibs are a grade finer than the European counterparts, so Japanese fine is actually European extra fine. The nib is not scratchy. The camera and microphone always picks up noise of a nib rather loudly, but I don't find it scratchy, but there is a lot of feedback. See a little bit of a skip here and there, but in all I don't think that's too terrible. Let's check out the wetness. Check out the wetness overall. Not a super wet pen. This nib is pretty stiff, so as always very careful. You can try to get out a little bit of line variation, but be careful. It's a stiff nib. And there is the reverse writing. Well, this is a very fine nib, so I don't expect too much. You can see it also runs very dry, but you would go from a fine to an extra fine, I guess, or European extra fine to extra fine or something, but it very quickly just gives up. So there is that. Okay, I think that shows off the parts of the pen. You've seen it right. Next question is, what did I like about it and what did I not like about it? And that's what's coming up next. Okay, so what do I like about the Sailor Reglus and what do I not like? Well, there's a couple of things that I actually really like. First of all, it's a solid pen. It feels solidly made. It's not very heavy, but it feels solid. Some pens feel really cheap. This is not one of them. That metallic look, it works. You can also get them in a couple of finishes, and all of those are work appropriate, which is nice. Here you have an orange pinnator, which is absolutely beautiful, but I know that there are people out there who would not take this to work. This, I think, is much nicer in that regard. So that's really not bad. Nice. Solid pen, nice range of colors. It is a slimmer pen, but it does post very securely, which adds a little bit of weight. Not a lot, as I said, it's quite light, but it does add a little bit of weight to it, and that makes it feel a bit more robust, even for a slim pen. I like that it has such a long section, because if you have slightly bigger hands, that makes it very comfortable to hold. Finally, I would say the price is pretty fair. So currently about $93. Not that bad. It could be a lot worse. It could also be better. There are more inexpensive pens around, and that's true for sure. But if you're looking for a Sailor, you want to try and sort of experiment a bit with the brand, I think you could do worse than pick up one of these, given the price. But $93, it's not cheap. It's definitely, there's cheaper stuff out there. Things I don't like so much. It is a very slim pen, and I personally am not really a fan of super slim pens, but of course, if you buy a slim pen, you complain that it's a slim pen, that there's something wrong with that. But it is slim, so be aware of that. It is a thinner pen. The 1911s are bulkier pens, but then they're also a lot more expensive. The nib is very fine, especially, I mean, it is a Japanese nib, so that was to be expected, but that fine nib, that's no joke, that is a really fine nib. The issue, I think, is more so that they only offer these pens, or seem to offer them, because I couldn't really find other nib options beyond medium, which is, if this fine writes like an extra fine, that medium is probably going to write like a fine. European or Western fine. So it would be nice if they would make these pens available with other nib options. I would love to see a broad or a medium, so that at least you have a bit more of a choice, right? The bottom line, a solidly made pen. It's a Sailor. Sailor delivers high quality products. I've not really had a lot of issues with Sailor pens in the past, so a solid pen, reasonably affordable, and about 90 bucks. Not bad at all. So, there you have it. That's all there's to it. I hope this was useful, and I'll gladly see you later. Bye bye.
Bye.